The Brown Park Podcast is brought to you by Grow Clinics. You can go to growclinics.com.au/Brown Park to book a free consultation or for more information. Hello.
G'day, mate.
Today, we're going to learn how to be better parents.
It's funny to think you can improve on perfection, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, this is why I reached out to her, because I'm failing miserably. So
You are not.
I am not, I know. But I know there are definitely areas to improve on, for sure.
I think there's definitely areas for anybody to improve on. Anyway, she's awesome. She's on the show. Her name's Coach Maysaa, and she's going to be up at a tick.
The Brown Park Podcast.
Question.
Yeah.
Today's episode is with a conscious parent coach.
Yes.
You have 3 children.
Yes.
I'm sure you're going to have some questions for this one.
I've got a whole book full of them.
So I'm sure you would have a story about one of your children that you're going to need to touch on through this episode.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Give us one. Give me one.
Not necessarily a story. I just want to know, there's so many questions, especially with 3. Like, why does one get along with the other 2, but the 2 little ones don't get along and they just want to beat each other to death? How long before they can get a job and start paying their own way?
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah.
3 kids are a drain.
How long before I can legally move them out of the house into their own premises? I have all these questions.
So many logical questions that need answers.
Brown Park special guest.
Coach Maysaa, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Hello. Hi, guys.
I feel like we're introducing the coach of a football team onto our show.
Which is appropriate.
Yeah. Well, I've got a team. You've got a team of 1, Dion. I've got a team of 3.
Team 4 over here.
Oh, you've got 4 kids.
I do.
So how old are your kids?
So eldest is 18, then there's a 15-year-old, 11 and 5.
That is a big gap too, isn't it?
It is a big gap, but it's kind of like we're now realizing the fruits that we're watching our elder 2 kind of live the conscious parenting results that we have gone through for the last 10 years. But anyway, we can get through that.
Yeah. So what is it? So you're a conscious parent coach. What is a conscious parent coach?
Yeah, so conscious parent coach is somebody who, a conscious parent is somebody who is in the present moment, who's here about the now. A conscious parent is somebody that's done the work on themselves and therefore they're parenting the child in front of them, not the child they wish they had, not the child that they were, not the child that they think they should have, just in the present moment. So when your kid's having a tantrum because they want an extra hour on an iPad, your mind's not gone to, oh no, I better say no because this is going to cause, him to be really bad in his studies. You're focusing on the present moment going, okay, what's going on now?
So how did you discover that you wanted to be a conscious parent? Was this a, I know I want to use a better phrase than a conscious decision, but at what point in your parenting journey, because 18 to 5 is a big age gap. Where did you discover that this is the kind of parenting you wanted to do and be?
Well, funny story, but 19 years ago when I was pregnant, I was also working as a primary school teacher. So my background is a bachelor's in education. I was a primary school teacher. I was pregnant. I thought easy peasy. Like I've done the study. I know child psychology. I know about behaviors. I've done 25 kids in a classroom. Done. And so I thought I was going to be a chilled out, fun mum. And then I had my baby and he was like, nah, not listening to you and not going to do anything you tell me to do. And automatically I went into when I look back now. So we're looking at 2005 here. So there was no such thing as conscious parenting back then. There were no real kind of deep and meaningful topics to have about different ways to parent. So it was a hierarchy. You're a parent, the kid does what you say, except my kid wasn't doing what I was telling him to do. And so I was like, well, what is going on? And, you'd hear from your oldies and your folks going, oh, well, you guys just roam the streets till dark and all unhelpful.
Back in my day.
Right? Genius that we stayed alive. Like, really, where was the responsibility, parents? But anyway, I digress. So, I had my son and he was now I know that he was a strong-willed child. So he had his mind set on things. And I wanted to control that. So I turned into like this controlling mum. Fast forward about, 7 years later. So now I've had a second child, his sister, boy and girl. And my eldest is 7. And we go to like this swimming carnival at school, and I'm watching him, and he's like, watch me. And I'm like, I am watching you. And he's like, watch me properly. I said, do you want my eyeballs? I'm watching. And then he kind of just looks at me and goes, but you're never really watching. And I was like,
oh.
True fact. Like, but I didn't say that to him, of course, because I wasn't, heaven forbid I agree. And then the second story came a few days later, which was, he lied to me. So he had said to me that, he'd taken his swimming bag to school, and then I found it behind the door. And I don't know why, but it was a moment, it was a light bulb moment where I was like, but why would he lie to me? Like, swimming is so much fun and he loves swimming. Like, and then I had this moment of going, what about I start to think of it from the child's point of view? And then bang, all of this stuff started to come at me. Like, it was like 2011 at this stage. And I was like, oh, what's this Dr. Shafali business? What's this conscious parenting on Oprah? And then I was like, wow, this is what I was just thinking about before. Like, what if we thought about things from the child's point of view? And that's my beginning to the story.
So why did he leave the bag?
Yeah, so it turns out that he was really good question, because it turns out he was really upset that they didn't have privacy in the change rooms. He didn't want to swim at school because the school wasn't allowing them to take their time getting dressed, and he was rushed. There was no privacy. It was just chaos. And every time he told his teacher that, his teacher would be like, blah, 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 all love to teachers. They've got 25 kids to deal with. And mum wasn't being understanding. So he's like, I'm done. And this is what strong-willed children do, by the way. They make up their own minds and they hold a boundary. And we call that stubborn or lie.
Yeah.
And so people-pleaser children would never do that. They would be like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable doing this, but I'm still going to do it. And then they grow up into anxious children, into anxious adults.
Yeah. I've noticed that with my own, especially with school, there's moments where they go, I'm just too rushed. I need more time. Yeah. And it's like, so you go to the teachers and you sort of say, well, look, what's going on? And they're like, well, they've only got so much time to do these things. They need to hurry up. I'm like, yeah, but you're causing my kid to freak the fuck out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. It's the system. And I think that it's really important when we talk about conscious parenting that we nut out a few myths and misconceptions. Conscious parenting isn't, oh, darling, sweetheart, you're feeling that way. Of course you don't have to swim.
Yeah.
Not that. Conscious parenting is about being in that moment and going, what's going on, buddy? Like, what is it that doesn't want to make it? And it's not always that conversation, because when your kids, like 10 minutes ago, my 5-year-old just had the biggest intense meltdown on the couch with the cushion on top of his head and just going, screaming. And of course I can't go, what's going on, buddy? Because it's not going to work. Brain psychology tells us that they are completely disconnected off logic, reasoning, right? So and again, I've been doing this for a decade. Essentially, I have to think this isn't about me. This is about him. So here are some things that's going on in my body. He's not giving me a hard time. He's having a hard time. Mate, I know how that feels when I'm stuck in traffic or dysregulated with something. Like, I know that feeling of anger. And so I sat down next to him and I said this stuff to my brain. So now I've calmed myself down. And now I've turned around and gone, hey, do you want to play Uno with me? Do you want to prepare your lunch with me? And he kind of, peeked out under the cushion and he's like, yeah. I'm like, cool, let's go.
So then how do you deal with the lies of a strong-willed child then? Obviously he lied about not taking his bag or taking his bag to school. So how do you deal with the lies without making them in trouble where they don't feel like they have to lie next time?
Yeah, totally. It's called preventative measures. So children lie for one reason only, because they need to protect themselves. Actually, all humans do, by the way, even adults, right?
They're just worried about getting in trouble.
Yeah, they're worried about getting, it makes sense. Like, and even, we'll do it too. If you're wearing a T-shirt I don't really like, I'm not really going to tell you because I'm trying to protect you and me and our friendship, right?
Yeah.
So with little children, we have to focus less on consequences, less on teaching the lesson, because let me tell you something about a kid. they know what's right and wrong. Like, they really know. They get that lying is no good, but they're forced into that corner. So remove the focus from your head about what lesson am I going to teach him, and more onto what's going on. Now, when you start to build this relationship with your kid, you'll start to go, okay, buddy, can't be lying to me. This is what's going to happen next Wednesday at swimming class. I'm going to tell the teacher, blah, blah, blah. And you work it out together. Now, if the lie happens again, what's the consequence for that? You missed out on swimming. That's the consequence in that instance, you know. Yeah. But let's say your kid doesn't want to brush their teeth. We can't give them the logical consequence of fine, get your cavity, fine. Can't do that, right? Like, it's irresponsible. Yeah. But what we can do is work out why they don't want to brush their teeth.
Yeah.
They will tell you that the minty toothpaste is too minty.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, it's going to cost mum and dad an absolute freaking fortune if you don't brush your teeth now. So,
yeah. And they don't care about that, by the way.
No, they don't give a damn.
You've got a goody two-shoes who'll be like freshing about money for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I've found it with my own parenting. A lot of it is, and my wife is big on this one, but you've got to take your own ego out of it, because I feel like you sometimes as a parent, you react to when your child does something and it's more sort of like, how dare you do that? I'm your parent. What do you say? When it's really, you got to take that out, because they're a kid. They don't have that cognitive ability to think of it from that point of view. So you really have to drop yourself down a peg and go, all right, take your ego out of it. What are they doing wrong? Why are they not happy at this particular point in time?
Well, it's fascinating you say that, because the best people that stay in the present moment are children. And an example of this was the other day, a client said to me she took her daughter to some theme park for her birthday as a treat. And they got home and her daughter wanted to play the iPad, and the mum said no. And the daughter said, I hate you, to the mum. This is a kid who's 10. And the mum was like, oh, so ungrateful. But the daughter is there in that moment of the iPad moment. It's not that she's forgotten about the theme park. It's just that children are not programmed to realize what gratefulness feels like. It's a skill that has to be learned, that cognitive skill. I mean, we even, adults still work on it till this day. And so if you want to learn about being in the moment, your kid's going to force you to be in that moment. And ego has this amazing ability. I always think of ego like this with parenting. I always think of ego as like the really annoying best friend. You know, the friend that just keeps talking and you're like, all right, dude, I got it. It's the same problem on repeat. You don't like your boss. You think your colleagues are crap. But like, it's that friend, and the friend keeps talking. And that's your ego inside of you going, now listen, Harry over there looks like he's going to kick up a big stink. You better quickly go and deal with that. And you know, Megan over there, she's going to need to be reminded about packing up her toys. That's ego. And so why ego does that is to protect you. Ego's all about you. Hey, Maysaa, make sure you don't lose control. In my case, that was what my ego, make sure that your kids know who's boss, because otherwise they're going to be brats. They're going to be like jerky brats. Then what?
Both my wife and I have always said the whole way along, we don't want to raise little turds.
Yeah, right.
We want to raise nice people. We don't want little fruit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a little bit of a rambunctious child.
Come on, say it like it is.
I still want to know how mum and dad could have maybe handled me differently, and it's interesting to know that it could be handled differently, because it was
boarding school.
Well, look, that was threatened. I'm not going to lie. That they did threaten to send me to boarding school. But yeah, it's interesting now.
So you were a strong-willed kid. You mean you were like a rough and tumble kid?
Yeah, I was definitely strong-willed. I would talk back. I would almost argue with myself. If my mum wasn't going to give me an argument, I was going to argue with myself.
Yeah. So interestingly, it's one of my fave topics to talk about, because strong-willed kids actually make up not even 10% of kid population, but they receive so much spotlight on them because they're just so stubborn, right, is what parents say. But in reality, when you look at what makes a strong leader, a good leader, you know, they're determined, persistent, strong-willed, have got good vision, stick to their boundaries, you know, all the stuff that strong-willed kids have. But because they're a kid, they don't have the maturity to get out of that loophole of quote unquote stubbornness. So their mum said, do your homework. And you're like, no. And your mum's like, yes, I said do it now. And then you're automatically called stubborn, right? Yeah. But in actual fact, strong-willed kids have no issue with authority. They have issue with the way authority presents themselves.
Ooh.
I've got 2 strong-willed kids. I can never make my my 18-year-old has survived 13 years of schooling without taking a pencil case to school. I'm like, how? How do you even exist and he's never in trouble. You know, I don't get any phone calls, and he's like, Mum, I have my ways. I get my jobs done, because they're so nifty in working out, you know, and I don't know if you were the same, but it's like, how can I survive this?
Nifty, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I got in trouble at school a lot too, though. But yeah, hindsight, I think that might have been my ADHD, which was not a thing.
There you go. Then. Yeah, of course. Of course, there's other things. I mean, my son's supported with 2 conscious parents. So like at the end of the day, I'm like, listen, if I don't get a call from your school, go to school with no pencil case. All good.
So how does a conscious parent deal with a kid like Dion? With a kid with, with a kid with, say, ADHD, because that seems to be the go-to term for a lot of things at the moment.
It's not totally my forte, but here's from a behavioural perspective, from a coaching perspective, when I work with clients with kids who have ADHD, here's some go-to seeds of ideas for your listeners. Firstly, think of ADHD like an executive cognitive inability, right? So there's 4 main things that our cognition is responsible for: flexibility, frustration tolerance, problem solving, and adaptability, right? Mm-hmm. These are huge. I mean, I still know adults that can't even do this stuff, right? And so for a child with ADHD, they have huge issues with shifting, you know, from one thing to another. You know, by the time they get into something, it's gonna, you know, be something else in a school setting anyway. With boys, throw in some hyperactivity and gone. All shiny things are going to just distract them, right? And with girls, there's a lot of masking happening. So they're like often good little girls that are not hyperactive, but they're like, what of the what? What was that? You know, that kind of, I better go home and study real hard extra, you know? Again, these are just simple ideas. Please seek professional help. And so that's the first thing. Think of it as an executive inability. The second point is, you know, a child needs help. They don't have the life experience that we have. So if your kid comes up to you and says, I'm not doing my homework over my dead body, I hate this, you know, there's a beautiful example that Dr. Green talks about in his book, The Explosive Child. He says, when it comes to homework, I mean, narrow in on this ADHD child, like narrow in on him and go, oh yeah, which part of the homework is dumb, to use his word? Like if your kid's got, homework's dumb, which part? All of it. Okay, but if you could choose a part, well, that part, the fractions part. Yeah, it's stupid. Oh, right. Okay, so is it question 1 or 2 in the fractions part? Well, 2, because then that one is that one. All right, so because they're linked together, it's all not making sense. Yeah, it's dumb. Right, now you have the actual story, because kids can't go, well, Mum, actually, it's 2.A that's worrying me because blah, blah, blah. Especially ADHD kids, they have a problem with articulation. So everything's dumb, everything's hard, everything is something quite big. And so if you practice those skills of narrowing in on the problem, there is always, I stand by this, there is always a story behind the story with a kid.
That's very cool.
Dan, what was your story behind your story?
Yeah, tell us.
I don't even know. I don't know.
Probably lack of support. Well, you know, no one understood you.
Well, yeah, potentially, because, I mean, like school, I got out of school as quick as I could, essentially, because I was never concentrating. I was always focused on getting out and playing or doing the next thing. Like my brain was never truly present in a classroom, ever. And, you know, that obviously showed my grades in my report cards. We've spoken about this on the podcast before, but Yeah, look, I was at school to have a good time, essentially, and not learn. So
we've got a different. The kids are lucky these days in terms of there's a lot more awareness, a lot more tolerance. So it's a different vibe from kind of where we grew up from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then how, I mean, you've got an 18-year-old at the top end and a 5-year-old at the lower age.
Yeah.
So, are you parenting a whole lot differently now? And do you identify things you may have done differently? And
absolutely. I mean, it's a topic that we talk about often. You know, even my son will go, you know, that's different to, you know, when I was his age. And you grow. Like my older two could never have had that tantrum on the couch. Like I am so sad to say that. But if it helps one parent feel better about themselves, then I'm happy to kind of share these stories because, you know, stories shared removes the shame, you know.
Absolutely.
But my two older kids couldn't have that tantrum on the couch. Oh, you better go right now to your room and think about what you did, or, you know, sit in the corner, or after everything that I've done, you know, that's that narrative that I used to lay out. And notice everything that I said just then had to do with I. There's no them.
It's the ego.
It's your ego in check, in play. And so with my 5-year-old, I'm, you know, what annoys me is people often label me as soft, right? Oh, you're being soft with him. Well, let me tell you something. I'm yet to meet a client that comes in and goes, you know what, Maysaa? My parents were so soft with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I do here? My parents didn't listen to me. My parents were rough with me, hard with me, permissive, gave me the silent treatment. I never hear my parents were so soft and they let me have the tantrum and they let me express my needs and then they helped me connect by asking me if I wanted lunch. I never hear that.
So true.
Brown Pop.
We've got to say thanks to Grow for the continued support of this podcast. And I was going through their website, as I do quite frequently. Want to see whether we ever feature on it?
And do we? I know you do.
Do I?
Sure you do. Anyway, as you were.
Anyway, they have this thing where you can gain credit for a hair transplant.
You can gain credit for a hair transplant.
So on their website at the moment, every cent you spend with Grow Online, including the prescription treatments and hair products and stuff like that, earns you credits for a future hair transplant if that's the way you want to go.
I've got it. So if you buy their shampoo or you buy their medication, the money you spend on that comes off the cost of a hair transplant.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I love it.
What a fantastic idea. It's like lay-by for your follicles.
Oh, yes.
Look, there's a whole bunch of stories on their website if you are going bald or you can see it in your future and you want to do something about it. Go and check out all the real people, the real stories they've got up there, like Matty Rogers, and they've helped thousands of Australians. And what I like is that more and more dudes are now going, you know what, I don't want to be bald. I don't have to be bald. I'm going to go and get it done.
And if you want to have a look, go to brownpark_ on Instas and have a look at us, because we both had the procedure. And if you scroll right to the bottom, you'll see when we went to Chernobyl one time, and both of us were follically challenged at that time. And if you look at us now, we're completely different.
Absolutely. And I also had the Grow Diary as well, which is grow.christo.diary. If you go to Instagram and check that out, you can see the befores and afters. Either which way, go to growclinics.com.au to find your solution, because hair growth is stronger with Grow.
Brown Pop.
Now, I want to ask a controversial question that a lot of parents will go, oh, what?
Oh, God.
And that is something you've posted recently and that you talk about, is that you cannot be best friends with your kids. And as soon as I sort of went, why can't I be their best friend? And then I realized you can't be their best friend. You have to be the authority figure.
Yeah. And, you know, interestingly, I guess that's why I define the word best friend, right? So best friend is where you're equal in your status. You know, when I look at my adult best friend, like I think of her right now and I'm like, okay, she doesn't judge me. She doesn't tell me what to do. She can't tell me what, like if she started to boss me around, right? Hey, Maysaa, you better, you know, go to bed now and all that stuff. She can't hold boundaries for me. I have to hold boundaries for myself, right? So we need to define that your child is a child with their own world. Yes, you can be friendly with them. Of course, understand their inner world, be friendly, loving, kind. I don't even believe I need to put that disclaimer. That is an absolute definite. But going, you know, your father, my God, he's late to dinner again. Like, is he always at work or what?
Yeah.
You know, or, hey, let's see what, nails are going to do together. When we're doing that often and a lot and for many years, we're kind of not teaching our children how to branch out and make their own friends, how to know that you are a solid base. Hey, you have to show your kid that you are the secure, mature, solid base. They can come to you when shit hits the fan and they've made a dumb decision. And you're going to still not go, hey, it's okay. You're going to go, hey, bad decision. Let's work this out.
When a child's in mid-tantrum and you say, just ask more questions, I'm just trying to think, that would also help with the whole calmness for the whole situation, right? Because I know when our daughter may have had tantrums in the past and the whole house escalates with her, and no one's performing at their best in those moments. So when I hear these approaches, I think, geez, that just must keep everything so much calmer, and a resolution would happen so much quicker.
Yeah, it really does. And it's not a magic one, though. So I'm going to give you a quick 101, right? So Dr. Dan Siegel, look him up, the best, kind of explain the brain as a house, upstairs and downstairs. And so when a kid, even an adult, but we're just going to talk about kids for now, when a kid's in a tantrum, they're only functioning from their downstairs brain, which is this part. And this part is responsible for that stress response, fight, flight. This part is responsible also for your heart racing, for your eyes blinking, for all of the things that we don't think about that our body does. And so when your kid's in mid-tantrum, so this is not conscious parenting, this is scientific, right? When your kid's in mid-tantrum, it is impossible to get to their logic and reasoning, to get to gratefulness, tolerance, all those 4 things we spoke about, problem solving. It is impossible. You have to help them. And the metaphor I give parents is I want you to imagine that you've got a battery pack and you're like going to share some of your battery with them. Like there's a wire. Now, how do we do that? The fancy term is co-regulation. So we need to send out signals to their brain. Hey, you're safe, you're accepted, right? These two, not even loved, right? The Gottmans found that love wasn't necessary, as a prerequisite for a child. They needed to feel that they were connected and they were seen and heard. Right? So now your child is going to be like, what's mum and dad doing? Okay, look at their face, look at their voice, look at their tone. They're never going to say this to you, but their brain is processing it. And so this alarm in their brain that's pumping out cortisol and like telling their bodies, hit, punch, scream, all this stuff, their eyes have started to go, oh, mum's not cracking it. Oh, and so they've managed to get 2 or 3 seconds of a breather. Now, insert, right, your connective statement, whether it's, I understand, whether it's, hey, like what I said to my son, do you want to go play Uno? Do you want to get some lunch? Now, their brain goes from downstairs to upstairs real quick. And their upstairs brain is all about the logic and reasoning. And they'll quickly go, oh, yeah, I am hungry. Yes.
Good.
And so... kids aren't going to go like this, right? This is what parents expect. Oh my God, you held a boundary, Mum. Thank you so much. You really listened to me.
I wish they would.
No way. Gosh, I didn't even know an adult that does that after having a tantrum. Oh,
yeah, that's true.
Later on, guys, and I've seen this. Like I've got an 18, nearly 16-year-old. They do that. And a quick story on that, just to showcase to your listeners that this stuff is real. So my daughter, she's 15 and a half, right? She comes home from school a few weeks back and she's like, I'm going to the mall with my friends. I'm like, oh, no, you've got to run this stuff past me, buddy. Like timing, no, that time doesn't suit us. So that's a no for today. And she's like, oh, this is the worst. Oh my God. And then she goes like this, she's saying, this is the worst. Then she pauses and she goes, you know what? I'm going to go eat because I think I'm hungry. So I might be hangry. And we're going to come back and then we're going to talk, Mum.
Oh, that's great self-awareness, though.
Yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years with her. I was like, yeah.
That's the reward you get.
She comes back. Now, here it is. Here's the circle for you guys. She comes back with the story behind the story. She's eaten now. So she's okay, regulated. She's like, all right, here's the story. I'm like, go for it. She's like, You know how you asked me 3 weeks ago if there was anything that I needed for International Day tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. She goes, and I said no and stop annoying me. Turns out there is.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So that's what she needed. There you go. Oh, my God. Now, there's one thing that a lot of parents don't understand, and I'm wondering whether you can shed a light on this, and that is, why does when my kid go to school, kindergarten, wherever they go, why are they so good at school? You know what I'm going to say, right?
I know where you're going with this. It's good.
But then when they come home, oh, my God, they are the biggest shits in the world. Like, why?
Yep, I feel ya.
Yeah.
I was thinking that just before. He was at like a school yeah. All right, here's the lowdown. Here are some reasons why, because I love that you've said why, right? Before we can fix the problem, we need to understand why. There's about 2 or 3 reasons why. Firstly, a human cannot function at great amazingness 24/7, right? It's impossible. You can't be radio DJ all day long going to the kids, right, how do you feel about that? No, you know, both of you. Same thing with me. I can't coach all day long if my, you know, that kind of thing. So it has to have an outlet, and usually it's home. And thank goodness for that. It means they're safe. Right? My husband's a CEO of a company. He comes home, he's like, I'm not CEOing anything, right? I'm not going to go like nothing, no decision making. I get it. I talk to so many other, you know, professions. That's reason one. They're feeling like they're in a safe space. They want to just blur everything out and be naughty and rowdy and rude and get it all out. Your key here is to do what I just taught you before. Hold space, pause, boundary, problem solve, help them get to the problem solving thing. And sometimes it's just you need a refuel in your room for 10 minutes. Right? So that's reason one. Reason two is because they've come home, and it's the exact opposite to reason one, where boundaries are not so intact. So when I was a teacher, kids, you know, in a school setting, especially if you're a good teacher and you've got boundaries, kids know. They'll write those rules at the start of the school year. We put up our hands before we speak. We do this, we do that. And a teacher has got really good boundaries because that's what they're taught to do. They come home and they're like, on Monday, I could play the DS or the Nintendo Switch. But then on Tuesday, it was a no. Then on Wednesday, it was like share. But then on Thursday, my brother didn't share with me. And what the heck is going on? Right?
Yeah.
So we want to look at us as parents when our kids come home. How consistent are we? As much as we can, of course, right? I was thinking about like a 70-30 rule. You know, you can't be 100% consistent because we're human as well. We've got our own shit to deal with. And so how consistent can we be? Well, we can do things that are consistent, like screen time rules. They can be consistent and they can adapt to whatever it is. Like I've got this call now. My kids are on school holidays. Go for your life. You're on a screen for an hour, buddy. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Whereas usually on a Tuesday, no screen time is allowed. And so that's the second reason. And lastly, it could be a huge sense of undue attention. I'm going to talk about this phenomena quickly, and you guys are going to be like, oh, yeah, that's right. So the best example is this. I go to swimming a few weeks back, and you know, all the parents are sitting down with swimming lessons for our 5-year-olds. And we're all on our phones. Cool. I'm one of them too. No judgment. It's the best. Kids are swimming. You're on your phone. All good. And there's this little girl, Isabella, and she's like, Mummy, look. And she's swimming. And the mum's going, nice, amazing, you know, that kind of stuff. And the girl's like, look, Mummy, look. Really similar to my story, right?
Yeah.
And the mum is like, yeah, amazing. Oh, my God. And she's like, you know,
taking photos,
her email and stuff, but she's still quite far. So the little girl stands up and she starts flinging all the toys, getting really rowdy. And the mum, not believe, turns off her phone, puts it in her bag, walks on over, bobs down right next to her and says, Isabella, we do not act like that. I'm going to stay right here until you've picked up all those toys. What do you think the little girl learned from that?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, she got the attention as well.
Yeah.
She got the attention that she needed.
She got the attention, yeah.
Spot on, but it's called undue because she got her mum's attention when she was doing the wrong thing.
Wrong thing, yeah.
And her brain starts getting wired like, so if I do more of this, then mum comes to me. Because children's brains are fascinating. Any reinforcement is reinforcement, by the way. Whether you are putting them in the corner or whether you are hugging them, they will receive that as reinforcement. They don't get it yet, especially, with the younger years. So what did that mum need to do? She needed to be more proactive. She knows that her kid is that strong-willed, rowdy kid, is going to go from 0 to 100 quickly. I would be like putting away the phone quicker, going forward. So they're the 3 reasons.
Okay.
That's cool.
The other thing that I've heard is the Coke bottle effect of why kids get. Have you heard of this? The Coke bottle effect, why kids come home and they get angry because what happens is because they have to hide their emotions at school. So like they might go to school and somebody goes, "Oh, I don't like your shoes," but because they don't want to create a scene or create a controversy, they bottle it up. So that's a little bit of the Coke bottle that's been shaken. And then they might, in front of their friends, trip over and get embarrassed, but they don't want to make a note of it. So there's a little bit more of the Coke bottle shook up. And then the teacher might say, "Oi, stop talking in class." They get embarrassed by it. There's another bit. So when they come home, the lid's off, safe space, they can just explode.
And you say, "How was your day?" Or "Put your shit over there."
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So that's going on with sort of that first reason where we want to really understand that 6 hours, 7 hours at a school on a school day is a long time and we just don't know what's happened.
No, that's true.
Round pop.
We love our friends at Grow for their continued support of this podcast.
Yes, thank you, Grow. We love you.
And if you are follically challenged and you are losing your hair, but you're not quite sure what solution is right for you, go to their website. Go and check it out. You can take the Grow quiz, answer 3 simple questions, and they'll match you with the most suitable hair loss solution. And then they'll put you through to an expert who can talk you through what are your options, what you can do, whether you go for the hair transplant, whether you look at medicines, whether you look at just topical growth serums and stuff like that. And like we always say, go in for a free consultation. They do it online or you can do it in any one of their places around Australia and New Zealand. And they can walk you through what the process is, show you what's involved, and then look at where your hairline is now compared to where it could be.
It's a procedure that actually works.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like plugs. That's the one thing I get a lot of people saying, going, "You can't even tell." I'm like, exactly. That's why Grow are the best at what they do. So go to their website, growclinics.com.au, and see what solution is right for your hair loss.
Round pop.
Let's link in with the whole screen time that we're touching on here.
Yeah.
So, well, tell me, social media with children. Thoughts on that? How to handle that?
Ooh, it's a biggie. We need a whole session on devices and screen time. Here's some quick notes for you guys. Basically, screens are here to stay. We have to accept that. They do a lot of good in our life. Thank goodness for Google Maps and Uber Eats, right? Like
Absolutely.
And this, Zoom, really, right? So we have to accept the era we live in is not any different to the other eras in terms of we are dealing with something new. Every era. There's a researcher that covered 100 years worth of change in every generation, and every single older generation says about the next generation, "Oh, they're going to come out soft and dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so lazy." My grandparents would tell my parents back in my days and so on and so forth. We are currently in an era where we have screen time. We have devices up against us. It's kind of like you've got to be more exciting than the device. I know. I know it's inconvenient, but it's also super convenient because they're really quiet while I'm doing this Zoom call.
Yes.
So I'll be going to my mum. "So what did you guys do with us for 3 hours when we drove to Lawn, to the beach back home in Victoria?" And mum's like, "Oh, you guys were good little children. You just would sit in the car." And I'm like,
no way we were.
I do not believe that for a second. Maybe one of us was.
Yeah.
Because I was a good girl.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I was that Coke bottle. So great, Second thing is you are the adult in the family, in the household. You are the parent. You choose the boundaries. You make the rules up for what suits your family when it comes to screen time. Your kids are going to choose 10 hours of iPad because it's bloody amazing. So you are the controller of the Wi-Fi passwords. You own the devices. You are in control of what they can and can't watch. And thirdly, there are there is a scientific way to help children with screen time in today's day and era. It's called being a tech mentor. I'm going to give you a quick example. When your kid is 1 year old and they're starting to learn how to use scissors, we buy them the blunt scissors, 2 years old, toddler age, and then they progress. This is how we teach everything in life. And suddenly we're handing an iPhone to a 3-year-old and wondering, oh my God, I wonder why they're like zombie-like, because it far exceeds their capacity. Same thing with learning how to cook. You don't just go to your 5-year-old or, 10-year-old even, go make eggs and it's like a blazing fire. No, first you stand next to them, you coach them.
Yeah.
Same thing with screens. You've got to sit there next to them and be like, this is this, that's good, that's bad. This is what researchers found. I had a viral video go nuts a few months back because I banned all devices in my household for 4 months. I did this experiment.
Did you? All right.
I need to be hugged from it. But essentially, what I learned is nothing in extreme serves a purpose in today's day and age. I mean, we would go to the dentist and the dentist would be like, here's a TV while you're, doing your teeth, and here's an iPad, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yep.
And so that's my quick take on devices for you guys in 3 minutes and under.
I love it. Then, so how does it mean when the children get upset? So, my daughter has friends that are on like Messenger and stuff, and we've limited the amount of people that she can have in that group. And there's a couple of groups that we just don't want her in because we don't see it's going to add any value to her life or anything like that. But she gets upset when all her friends are on this chat group, but we're not allowing her. So how do you handle that as a parent?
How old is your daughter?
10, turning 11. Yep.
So well done. You're doing something called holding a boundary, and no child is ever going to say, thank you so much, Dad. Thank you so much. Oh my God, I can totally see how this group is not going to benefit me. Thank you. No, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Instead, you have to be confident within yourself. So you talk to your coach, you talk to your partner, you talk to whoever you need, not to your kid. Your kid's not going to pat you on the back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So instead, I want you to think of yourself like an OH&S officer, that no one likes. Because they're like, where is the safety measure for this sink, right?
Yeah.
And everyone at work groans and is like, you're that to your daughter. You're like that annoying person that doesn't make sense because it's not her job to understand it. She's going to, we all know, we're adults now. We're like, we get it. We get it. And so she's going to get that many years ahead. For now, focus on your goal. When you hold a boundary, your step one is to be specific and have your intent. Your intent, it sounds like, is safety. Your intent is like, all right, I need to keep your mental health safe. Having too many groups at 10 years old is just not viable. And that's it. That's your intent. Do you say that exactly to your daughter? Maybe, maybe not. 50-50. Don't go too much into the TEDx talks because kids at 10 are not interested. They're like, blah, 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 Dad wants to control.
Yeah. Clean the dishes, do that, and welcome to my TED Talk. Let's go.
Well, I think the reason we do is because we want home to be her safe space, because I know you like back when we were at school, if somebody was being bullied, they'd go home and they'd be safe. But it's not so much the case these days. They can still get bullied when they get home with social media and that type of thing. So that was our rationale. I want you to narrow
down your intent a little bit more than that. That's a lot of eyes in there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want you to think more strongly about why is it that she can't join Alyssa and Melissa and Lisa into that group? Like, why? You want to really narrow in, because I want this home to be her safe space, because when I is ego.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'll put you on the spot. Have a think.
And I will, because I'm not answering now, not without my wife.
Yeah, for sure. But these are things that, you can consider.
And I want to ask you one more question, because this plays a lot in my household specifically, and I know a lot of friends. Why don't my kids get along? Why the hell can they not get along? Okay, 3 kids, right? The eldest one gets along with the other 2 perfectly, but the middle one and the young one fight like friggin' cats and dogs.
Yeah. So I'm running a whole workshop on this, 3 hours worth of information. So whoever's listening, make sure you grab a ticket to that. It's virtual, it's via Zoom. Thank goodness for that. But, in a nutshell, right, you want to look at siblings as having their own temperament, but they're forced to live with each other. Like they were just placed on this earth. It's almost like you choose your friends, right?
Yeah.
With siblings, there's a little bit extra to it. So a child's main concern, this is their main concern. Doesn't matter how you look at it. A kid will never agree to this though, or admit to it, should I say. But their only concern is to get their parents' attention. That's what they're looking for. And so they'll do this navigation of what gets my parents' attention and who's getting it more than me and what's going on. And so what we end up doing is we end up playing referee. This is the biggest mistake. We always end up feeling sorry for one and not for the other. One's an aggressor, one's a victim, and it can change depending on the day. We end up doing one is right, one is wrong. We end up being like this umpire. And so I want you guys to remove that from your brains and insert moderator, insert commentator. When you're watching the footy, you can't tell if they go for the Bombers or the Pies. You can't really tell who the person, unless, it's a bit of bias, whatever. But generally speaking, you can't tell who a commentator's going for. And so when your two kids are fighting, you step in as a moderator, commentator, coach, whatever you want to use. And you're like, oh, darling, one red car, you both want the red car. Okay, I can see that, but there's only one car. Oh, no, you can't be hitting. I'm going to have to hold you back because, no. Are you okay? No one's allowed to hit you. Let me check your head. Okay. One red car, two children. I don't know about you, but the math doesn't add up. Do you want me, now here's this part. Do you want me to XYZ? Do you want me to sit here and watch that? Do you want me to put on a timer? Do you want to come with me and go there? We have to help the kid get through the conflict resolution because it's a terrible conflict resolution. They're the worst.
Yeah.
They don't even know one won't know how to stand up for themselves, or if they both are fiery, it's just going to be like this the whole time.
I like the idea of commentating it. And there goes Jesse in for the red car, and over the top comes Noah.
Noah,
Just in the back of the head.
I mean, commentator is regarding the problem. Yeah. So it looks like, guys, it looks like you both want to turn on the TV. And how about? And so now there's always going to be a child that will go, oh, whatever, blah, blah, always gets her way. I mean, I'm 40 and I still believe my mum has a soft spot for one of my brothers. I'm like, he can do wrong.
Yeah. We're all like that. It never goes away, does it? Yeah.
Right? We've got our beliefs about our parents, and our children will have that too. Unfortunately, it's the baggage they carry. So there's that advice for you. And secondly, how much time do you spend with each child individually where you are maintaining the relationship with each other, you and the child? It's 10 minutes a day, research has found, 10 minutes a day, every day, per child, per parent. And this is phenomenal in getting the child to feel more relaxed so that they won't punch on with their sister or brother, or less, should I say.
Yeah.
There's so much. 3 hours.
There is.
Come along.
Holy hell. I think I'm going to sign up.
Then what advice would you give, once parenting's hard, right? It's a massive shock to the system when kids come along, your world's changed. I guess what piece of advice would you give to a new parent that's just stepping into this new journey?
Yeah, work on you. Yeah. I mean, we need licenses before we drive a car or a jet ski. If you want to own an exotic animal, you've got to pass all these tests. But somehow we're given a baby, an innocent, pure, phenomenally perfect baby, and we're like, here you go, do your thing.
Off you go.
Yeah.
And there's no instructions for you. There's a lot of instruction now in 2023 with all the social media, but in essence, do your work. Get into your baggage, your healing journey that probably doesn't end, but it does give you respite in terms of, oh my God, I'm not weird. There is a thing out there that makes sense to me and why I'm like this. And so why I'm like this is very broad. It could be, do you have a short temper? Are you passive? Do you run away from conflict? There's all these things. And once you know the why, then you can somehow navigate your way into working out a new language which is conscious parenting, which is looking at the child in front of you and understanding that they are complete. You don't complete a child. They've already come complete. You can teach a child, you can mold a child, you can help them learn whatever it is and then what do you want them to learn? So this is the key part to that argument I was telling you about at the start, when people are like, oh, you're so soft with your children. Well, I mean, I'm going to let these kids free into the world one day. They're going to learn softness. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
How can we not want adults to be gentle with other adults when they're hurting? That's the key to humanity. And so when my child's hurting, what's the lesson I want to teach him? Oh, in the big bad world, no one will care for you. No, thanks. I'm not buying into that. And so if you are a new parent, if you've already parented, you're a new parent or you're a parent to be, work on yourself, find a therapist, find a coach, get into the healing journey.
Well, Coach Maysaa, you can find you online, Instagram, all the socials, Facebook. You've got your own website as well. We'll put all the links for you in the show notes of this podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I actually feel like I've walked away going, okay, well, I'm going to take away a lot of what you said and try and implement it. So that's amazing. Thank you.
So you're so welcome. I'm so proud of you guys for even, opening up your minds to this and really exploring this idea of, conscious parenting. What is it? And I hope a lot of your listeners are like, opened up and exposed to a new way of thinking when it comes to parenting.
Well, I think after that, I'm going to be the perfect parent.
I think there is going to be no more tantrums in this house, and I am going to reign supreme.
Look, it's like she said, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but as long as you have the tools to deal with it, and that's what it's all about, I think, in this case. And I think the stuff that she's told us is excellent, because I think going into something like that, sometimes when you hear, conscious parenting, you're going to sit there and go, oh, it's conscious parenting. Here we go.
Yeah.
But it's not like that. And the way you heard her talk about it, it's really just being in the moment with your kid and trying to work out
why
their unique little personalities.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense when she breaks it down like that. Like, we are all beings feeling, and to actually get down to their level and go, okay, now why are you feeling this way? It just makes complete sense, rather than just trying to tell them what to do.
And like all her details are in the show notes for this podcast. You can go and check her out. You can go to our website, which is brownpark.com.au. There's a whole bunch of merch and stuff up there. We put articles up about mental health and well-being and stuff like that.
Now, I'm off to go be Parent of the Year.
Yeah, good luck with that.
All right. I'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
The Brown Podcast.